Alright, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. This is the second half of the mixture word problems worksheet. You're going to do all of the evens, and we've already done all of the odds. I'll put that video in the description below, as well as at the end of the video, so you can check that out. Let's go ahead and dive into number 2. 9 pounds of mixed nuts. It's really hard to say fast. Containing 55% peanuts were mixed with 6 pounds of another kind of mixed nuts that contain 40% peanuts. Right? What percent of the new mixture is peanuts? Okay, so what I just did was something I like to call marking the text. It is kind of like maybe if you've heard of this in English class, but specifically for math, so that you can hone in on what's important in the problems. You don't have to, understand everything in the problem, just the numbers, what the numbers mean, and what they want, right? Because ultimately, every math problem is going to be exactly the same. You're going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide all the numbers, put them all together, and get the answer. That's how every math problem works, right? Operations, I guess, to be more general, because it's there's other things you can do besides adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. But let's go ahead and jump in. So what's the goal, right? Begin with the end in mind. What's the end? The percent of the new mixture. What percent, right? What percent of that new mixture is peanuts? Well, if we want to know a percent of peanuts, then we need to know the amount of peanuts, right? The amount out of the total. We need to know the amount of peanuts out of the total number of peanuts. And I'm going to cross this out here. We're not doing number 1. The amount of peanuts. Well, what's the amount of peanuts? Well, it's 9 pounds containing 55% peanuts. Well, what would that be? How many peanuts is that, right? How many pounds of peanuts is it? Well, it'd be 9 pounds times 0.55, right? 55% as a decimal, 0.55. That times 9 would tell us the amount of pounds of peanuts. Plus the other amount, 6 times 0.4, right, 40%. That would be the amount of peanuts in the other kind of mixed nuts. So that's the total amount, right? So that's the total. That's the amount. That's the amount, right? The total amount. But I don't want to say total amount necessarily because I might confuse that with total. Total is the total, like the total poundage, right? Well, if we're mixing 9 pounds of mixed nuts with 6 pounds of mixed nuts, that is hard to say fast, then we get 15 pounds. So the total poundage is 15, and it's 9 times 0.55 plus all that. So if you are not allowed to use a calculator, so sorry, I'm not going to show you how to do this without a calculator. You would just kind of multiply it out by hand. That's not what I aim to accomplish in this video. So if you're curious, the amount at the top should be 7.35. That's the total amount of pounds of peanuts out of divided by 15, the amount of, everything. And I get 0.49. So this is 0.49 or 49%. And there we go. That's the answer. All right. Moving on to number 4. 16 pounds of brand M cinnamon was made by combining 12 pounds, so 16 pounds. Combining 12 pounds, which costs $19 per pound, with 4 pounds of Thai cinnamon, which costs $11 per pound. Find the cost per pound of the mixture. So this is actually asking for the same exact thing as number 2, except there's not percentages. So we still need the amount out of the total. I'm going to not write out amount divided by total anymore. I'm just going to go straight to it. And like I do with a lot of these worksheets, pretty much every worksheet I've done this, what I'll do as I'm going is I'll solve each problem a little bit faster than I did before, unless there's some sort of new thing that they're popping up at us. All right, so this one's not really new. It's pretty much exactly like number 2. Except it doesn't have percents, which I think I already mentioned. So let's jump into it. We need the amount of Indonesian cinnamon, right? We need the amount that costs. Should be 12 times 19. Plus 4 pounds of Thai cinnamon, which costs $11 per pound. $11 for each pound, it's 4 pounds. So 11, 11, 11, 11, right? Or 11 times 4. Out of the total, which is 16. And that's it. Right? So we just type it in, get the answer. 12 times 19 plus 4 times 11 is 272. That's how much it costs. Divided by 16. That's how much it costs per pound. So $17 per pound. And that is the answer. Right? And that's an LB there, if you were wondering. That's it. That's all there is to it. Okay, now this one's going to be a little bit different. So I'll go not as quickly maybe, but also not as slow as number 2, probably somewhere in the middle. How many, so actually they're asking for the question, the question is first, right? How many milligrams of a metal containing 45% nickel must be combined with 6 milligrams of pure nickel to form an alloy containing 78% nickel? Okay, so the reason why I'm not going to go super slow with this is because even though it's different, it's actually kind of the same because we're going to set it up pretty much the same exact way, except we don't know how many milligrams of nickel there are. That's what we're trying to solve for, right? So that's x. It's x times 0.45. I'm also going to stop doing the leading zeros. I actually don't like to put leading zeros. X times 0.45. That's going to be the amount of nickel that's in that metal, right? This metal right here. That's the amount of nickel is x times 0.45. We don't know how many milligrams are it. That's what we're trying to solve for. But that plus the other amount, 6 milligrams of pure nickel. Well, how much percent of nickel is pure nickel? It's 100%, right? 100% as a decimal would just be 1. I'm just timesing 6 by 1. 6 times 1 is 6, so I'm just going to get rid of that. It's just 6, right? If it's 6 milligrams of pure nickel, how much nickel is in 6 milligrams of pure nickel? It's 6 milligrams. So the amount times the percent, the amount times the percent. This is actually a lot like number 2, except we're kind of solving for a different thing. The total, what's the total? The total poundage, right? The total weight. In this case, grams, the total grammage. So, the rhymes with damage. So then we would have the total, right? Well, we don't know what the total is, but we do know that if we knew what x was, we would add it to 6, and that would be the total. And then we already kind of know the answer. So what we tried to solve for in number 2 was this, 78, this 0.78 number, right? You have to write that as, everything has to be written as a decimal, right? You don't want to use percents in the problem. Now, if we did, we would just write everything as a percent. So I would leave 100, I would leave 0.45 as 45, but it's usually better to write things as decimals. But anyways, yeah, so that's the problem. Now, normally we would be solving for the 0.78, but we already know the 0.78. So now it's an equation that we have to solve. So this got ramped up by quite a bit here, actually. Let me get rid of this. So that's not distracting us here. So this is 0.45x. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. We need to get rid of the fraction. There's an x plus 6 here. X plus 6. If we multiply, I'm going to put parentheses around everything. If we multiply both sides of the equation by x plus 6, then it would get rid of the x plus 6 down here in the bottom in the denominator. I'd have 0.45x plus 6 equals, right, because the x plus 6's would cancel, equals 0.78 times x plus 6. So 0.78 times x and 0.78 times 6. 0.78 times 6. Didn't feel like doing that in my head. That is 4.68. 4.68. Okay. Now we just have an equation to solve. So if you have to solve this by hand, what I would recommend doing next is multiplying everything by 100. Then you'd have, you would get rid of the decimals that way, right? So if you are doing this by hand, quick shout out to you guys that have to show all of your work by hand for this. I'm so sorry. You would need to multiply everything by 100. So then the equation would read, and go ahead and pause this video if you want to try it out first and see if you get the right answer. Multiplying everything by 100, both sides, you would get 0.45x. I forgot to put the x in there. 0.45x. So it'd be 45x plus 600 equals 78x plus 468. right? That's what you would get if you multiplied everything by 100. And then you get rid of the decimals. Now, if you're not using, or if you're able to use a calculator, then that doesn't really matter too much. What I would do next is I would subtract 0.45 from both sides. 0.45x, that is, minus 0.45, because this is actually a kind of a preference of mine specifically, so you don't necessarily have to do it this way, but I do recommend it. I'm going to subtract the 0.45x on both sides. I could have also subtracted 0.78x on both sides. If you prefer to have the x on the left-hand side, then you would subtract 0.78x on both sides, and that would work also. I, however, like to have a positive x. I prefer having a positive x over having the x on the left-hand side. So that's why I subtracted it that way, just sort of a preference. So if I'm going to have the x on this end, it's going to be 0.78, right, minus 0.45. I'm really lazy today. 0.33x. Okay, well, if this x is on the right-hand side, we want the numbers to be all on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 4.68 on both sides. I'm going to subtract 4.68 on both sides. So 6 minus 4.68 is 1.32. 1.32. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.33. 1.32 divided by 0.33. It's going to be exactly 4. X is 4. And that's the final answer. Now you would want to also put milligrams in there. So it's x milligrams. If you put x milligrams, then I guess you technically wouldn't need to put milligrams at the end of the number 4, but some teachers really like you to include units on everything. They're real sticklers about that. So if they are, then make sure you put milligrams on that 4 before you lock that guy in. Okay, we're actually already almost done. I don't know if you knew that, but we're pretty much done. We've only got 2 more here, right? Number 8 and number 10, and that's it, right? So we're rounding off this video already. But before we do, let's go ahead and look at the answers here. Or check our answers here. You should be able to do this yourself. You can actually look up this worksheet. You would just type, just Google mixture word problems. Maybe type in the word Kuta software, or Kuta worksheet or something like that, and it pops right up. It's usually like the first thing that pops up because they're pretty popular, which is why I wanted to do this series. And you can just kind of check for yourself. So 49%, right? 49%, good to go. Okay. And as I'm checking these, answers, if you want to, avoid making math mistakes, you should check out my free guide that I have on my website. It's called myersmathematics.com. That link's in the description below. That's my website. You go there and you can grab that. It's like a little PDF guide kind of thing. And it just kind of gives you some quick tips on what kinds of mistakes you might be making in math and how you can avoid making those mistakes. So if you're interested in that, you can go to the website and grab that for free anytime you like. But go grab it today and tell me what you think. You can shoot me an email. I have my email in the description below. Let me know if you liked it or if you thought it was terrible or whatever. Give me some feedback. And I welcome bad feedback too. Well, not necessarily, just constructive criticism. If you're like, this one part was really confusing, that would actually be really helpful for me because then I could make it better and help more people with it. So let me know what you think. Go grab that free guide and tell me what you think about it. Number 6, I got 4. Yeah, 4 milligrams. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and round off the last couple here. These last 2 should be the hardest ones, but they aren't necessarily the hardest ones. Let's look here. 9 gallons of a sugar solution. Yum. Sugar solution was mixed with 6 gallons of a 90% sugar solution to make an 84% sugar solution. Find the percent concentration of the first solution. All right, so we set it up the same way. 9 gallons of a sugar solution. It doesn't say how much sugar is in it, so we don't know. It's times X. So this time the X is the percent. Right? 9 gallons of some percent of sugar solution mixed with, I'm going to add 6 gallons of a 90% sugar solution to make 84% sugar solution. What would be the total gallons here? The total gallons, remember, it's always amount out of the total. Total gallons would be 15. And there we go. We have our equation, right? 9 gallons of a certain percent sugar mixed with 6 gallons of some percent of 90% sugar. Right, divide by the total, and you would get the percent solution, which they told us was 84%, so 0.84. And there is our equation. Notice all of these numbers are actually kind of the same. You kind of set them all up exactly the same. We're just solving for different things now. Instead of solving for 0.84, now we already know 0.84 and we're solving for something else. Okay, so we want to multiply both sides by 15 first. 15 times 0.84. Just write that out there. So we want to multiply both sides by 15. Right? And when I do this, I did this on the last problem as well. It's just sort of lazy, but it's not technically like what you're supposed to do. But so if your teacher doesn't like this, then what you would do instead is you would put a parentheses here and a parentheses here, and you would write the 15 on both sides of the equal sign. I don't do that just because I know what I mean when I put the 15 there. But if your teacher doesn't care, then go for it. Right? But you've been warned. If you do this and your teacher doesn't like it, I did warn you that they might not like it. But it's less writing. It's less work. And I prefer to do things that, are less work. So we multiply 15 on both sides. It cancels here. It cancels out that 15. That was the whole point of doing it. Then I have 9x plus, 6 times 9 is 54, so this is going to be 5.4. 5.4 equal to 0.84 times 15, which is 12.6. And again, if you are not using a calculator, if you have to do this by hand, multiply everything by 10 to get rid of those decimals. If you can use a calculator, then you would just subtract both sides by 5.4 next. You get 7.2. 9x equals 7.2. 7.2 is like 72, so it divides kind of evenly by 9-ish. Divide by 9 anyways in the calculator. If you're not sure, you could just divide it. You get 0.8. 8 times 9 is 72, so there you go. X is 0.8. But it wants the percent concentration, right? So we got the decimal concentration. We want the percent concentration. Be really careful with that, because 0.8 is good, but if they say they want a percent, you have to change it back into a percent, right? So be really careful with that. Okay. Brand X sells 21 ounces of mixed nuts. Again with the mixed nuts, man, these guys like nuts. Okay, let's see here. Brand X sells 21-ounce bags of mixed nuts that contain 29% peanuts. To make their product, they combine. They're combining. Okay, so this 21 ounces of mixed nuts is the answer, sort of, right? To make their product, they combine Brand A mixed nuts, which contain 35% peanuts, right? So some amount of Brand A nuts, which contain 35% peanuts, plus Brand B nuts. Again, we don't know. We don't know how many, what that is. It's probably not the same amount. It doesn't say an equal mixture, right? It just says, so that'd be Y. We'd have an X and a Y here. Ooh, that's a little cray-cray. We'd have to use a different letter. We can't use X because we don't know that Brand A and Brand B are the same amount. And actually, if they were the same amount, then it would be exactly 30%. 35% mixed with 25% would be exactly 30%, right? Think about it. 35%, 25%. You mix them together. It's going to be in between, right? What number is exactly between 35 and 25? 30, right? So, but it's not. It's 29, so it's close. But we have to use Y. This is going to be a tough problem. Let's check this out. So X times 0.35. Y times 0.25. All right? That, over the total, 21 ounces, is going to equal 0.29. 0.29. Right? Now, there's actually two equations. There's two equations now. This is a system of equations. This is crazy. There's two equations because also X and Y together represent the total weight, which is 21 ounces. So there's two equations here. All right? One equation is a little bit easier than the other one. Let's clean up the crazy equation like we usually do. We can't solve it all the way, but we can clean it up a little bit, right? So that's going to cancel. Get 0.35 x plus 0.25 y equals 21 times 0.29. 21 times 0.29. 6.09. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and multiply by 100. I know I'm using a calculator for this, but go ahead and multiply by 100, especially if you're doing it by hand. Now, the other thing, too, what I'm going to go ahead and do is if you're able to use a graphing calculator, Okay, so this is a system of equations. This is like leaving the realm of Algebra 1, basically. I mean, it's in Algebra 1, but you know, if you're in honors especially, you would maybe see this. But if you're able to use a graphing calculator, there's actually a program you can use, or you can do it by hand. But I made a program called Systems. On the nose, I know. And it solves a system of equations for me. So I'm going to actually type it into my program right now and get the answer that way. 0.35, 0.25, 6.09. And I already put the numbers in for the first equation. And it looks like I get the answer. All right, so I know x and y now. How much of each do they need? Okay, so then x is 8.4. X is going to equal, let me scroll down a little bit. Scroll down just a little bit here. Gonna need some extra space. X is gonna equal 8.4, and y is gonna equal 12.6. All right. So if you were curious what the answer was, that is what the answer is. However, you can just look up this worksheet and get the answers. You can just Google it. So let me show you what that would look like if we were gonna solve this by hand. Sort of. Still gonna use the calculator. We probably want to go ahead and multiply everything by 100, but yeah, we probably should multiply everything by 100 here. Yeah, so 35x plus 25y equals 609. Okay, 35 and 25 are pretty much only going to have 5 in common. 609 does not divide by 5, though, so we can't really do anything with that. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to multiply this other equation, or we could do substitution. Substitution might be easier, actually. Let's do substitution method. We could do elimination method, but substitution, I think, might be easier. I don't know, maybe. So substitution method, I need to solve for a variable, x or y. Doesn't matter which one I solved for. I just kind of decided to subtract y on both sides, so now I have x. And then what I do with that is I plug that into this equation. So 35, and then x is equal to 21 minus y. All right, so 35 times x, which is now 21 minus y because of this equation. All right, plus 25y equals 609. All right, then I want to distribute. All right, again, as I said, this is a daunting problem here. 735, 35 minus 35y plus 25y equals 609. Minus 35 plus 25, that's going to be minus 10y. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract 735 from both sides. So 609 minus 735, negative 126. All right, let's kind of separate that there. And then we would divide both sides by negative 10, so y is going to equal 12.6. Aha! And it does. All right, so that looks good. So then we just plug it back in here. 21 minus 12.6. What is 21 minus 12.6? It is 8.4. X is equal to 8.4. All right, and those are our answers. And that's what I got there anyways. You would also, if your teacher likes units, remember, don't forget the units. You would put ounces for both. So 8.4 ounces, 12.6 ounces. Make sure you have those in there if your teacher needs you to have those, or if they're going to count you off if you don't, or whatever. And that was it. Wow, we really ended with a doozy here. Number 9 actually was pretty nice. If you have already read the video, you already know. But it was we're combining 60% gold with 40% gold and making 50% gold. So you don't need to do all of this actually, because it's equal amounts. 40 and 60, you didn't need equal amounts. So number 9 was actually probably easier than number 1. If you saw that, we know they were exactly apart like that. But anyways, so that's it for this video. I hope that was helpful. If it has been, go grab that guide. It'll be really helpful for you. I think it will do really well with you if you grab that. And let me know what you think about it. And if you want to throw a like or subscribe or whatever, that's cool too. To support the channel. And I will see you again in another episode real soon. Deuces.